We're here, guys. Gonna wait till everything pops up here, get some guys in the space. Again, it's Mike and Mike. We're back here on election day. Sorry we are late. Not sure. As soon as we pop on, we look good
Yeah,
now.
we're live now.
And what we want to do is say hello and sorry that we took us a little while to get on, but we had some pressing issues. Actually, was fighting about a couple things we disagreed on, but no, we're ready to get started here today and talk about some of the issues we talked about yesterday as it relates to the election. So, how's everybody feeling? I'm going to wait till a couple people get in here before we actually start the main discussion. And I want to go back to a couple of the topics that we left off on yesterday. How you feeling, Mike?
Feeling pretty good, man. How about you? Finally exercised my right yesterday, so
Okay.
I'm feeling good about that. I was feeling a little, like I was failing some folks when I hadn't early
Okay.
voted yet, but I got it in now, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Um, what I want to say is that since I voted early, it did feel different not having to get up and vote or go down and vote or worry about the line voting. But I do know I talked about four people who's going to vote this evening. One is my wife, and I don't know if that's a good idea because I don't know how long the lines are going to be. But because we did so good in early voting, maybe that's going to be, a
Yeah,
sign of we won't have big lines.
right.
And let's hope that's the case. I heard we had over 10,000 early voters here in Jefferson County alone.
Yeah.
If that's a big number, that's really a big number, and so that's something good to be proud of that we did what we did. Guys, we're gonna when we get this conversation, we will answer your questions and some of your comments. We're going to spend a lot of time doing that because we want to converse. We want to hear what everybody has to say and get started. How you doing, my beautiful daughter, Alyssa? She's talking to you. Said, "How are you and Mr. Jet?" So, hello, lady. Good seeing you today. Hope the kids are treating you well, teacher. Um, what's up, Mr. Gotti? How you doing? From Cancun, I see. I hope you're treating the people well in Cancun. I sure assume your weather's pretty good there.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a nice day today for voting. Nice crisp fall
Yeah,
day
it is.
here. So
About
sun's
60
out,
degrees.
60 degrees. So that's a good day for voting. So we just hope everybody get out and vote. And why?
What's up, CJ?
Is that Mr. Treasure?
Yeah.
How you doing, Mr. Treasure? Good seeing you. Congratulations on that chip. You guys worked hard on it. If you guys didn't know, the Broncos won another chip. The Bantams 3-3 back to back to back. That was only done previously, and the Tigers did it with the JV team. That Minister Jet was and Coach Tay and Coach Quint were a part of those three championships. I was a part of either one or two of them. I think I was on the staff for one or two of them. But that's a great accomplishment for the Steubenville Broncos, and also the JV team won. So they had 2 out of 3 champions. So they had an excellent season.
What's impressive about the whole thing is because they won back to back to back means that 9-year-old JV guys that just won the championship
They've won
have
three
won
also.
3 in a row also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they started it,
Yeah.
and they still along with it. So that group probably thinking we got to continue these ships all the way out.
Yeah.
And it's a good group of boys, good group of guys, good job coaches, good organization. It's a good thing for the kids. Whenever the kids has got something to do, occupy their mind, and they got some good leadership. They learn sportsmanship. They learn how to work together. They learn responsibility, discipline. All those things at an early age add up. And there's still, to this day, Najee Murray, who's a professional football player to this day. Whenever we talk, the first thing we get on to after I ask him how he's been, he asks me how I've been. The next thing we talk about is the Tigers and how much he appreciated them and us. And it's a real good feeling just to know that that there's gratitude for things that you've done. You do it from the heart, but when you get that gratitude, that just adds to it. And so them Bronco coaches, all of them, gotta give a shout out. We would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to Coach Creech.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Coach Creech is a living icon. Um, Melvin Harvey, Woes, Wallbanger, whatever name you guys want to call Mr. Melvin Creech Jr. He's definitely an icon in our community, and I was blessed to start a friendship with him way back in the day at Grant School, but then reunite our friendship back in 2000 when he started his. I believe that's right around the time he started getting clean.
No, he's been clean longer than that.
22 years.
will be 22 years. Will be back to 9. I think. I ain't sure.
Okay.
I ain't sure. But
Whatever it is, somebody will tell us. I know everybody know, and we've heard his story. And I'm mad I don't know exactly how many years, but it's a long time he's been clean.
Yeah.
And I remember
he started
he
getting clean in the 90s.
I remember the day I asked him to start coaching, told him the idea I had, and he said, "Mac, I'm in." He said, "I love the kids, and I need to do something to keep my time." And he said, "Let's." He said, "Let's do it." And he was one of the first. He was the first coach. Coach Dixon was the second coach, and Coach Roseberry was the third coach that I talked to about being on the staff. And then that's when I started, start talking to other people, and other people came up to me. And now we got the Broncos in their third or fourth year, I believe, third year. Third year, and Tigers were for 15 years. So in 18 years, in the last 20 years, it's been a good thing for these kids at Steubenville, good things for Steubenville as a whole. And they are continuing that. So congratulations to the Broncos.
Both Bantam and JV division.
Both Bantams and JV are champions. That Bantam group is back-to-back champs. Some great coaching staff. Coach Gary, Coach Catone, the ones I know for sure.
Yeah.
It's good to see. Good to see.
Montgomery.
Coach Montgomery. Oh, of course. Well, he's the president, right? I believe he's the president. So, I don't think that he needs a pat on the back because I was in his position at one time. Pat Gary. Yeah, good to see Pat Gary back there. But again, about James, I don't think he needs a pat on the back. Because when I was in that position, I never needed that. But
that's your problem.
Was told that. So
you didn't want that.
I didn't want it. But we'll give it to him then. We'll give him a pat on the back for having the initiative to, when we ended the Tigers, to say, hey, the kids still need something. Obviously, we didn't think that they didn't need anything. But a lot of the coaches are still there that was there before. So it's just a great thing. That should be a show in ourselves. Maybe we'll see if we can get him to come on with us one day and talk about the last 3 years and because he was with the Tigers also.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I assume he appreciated everything that the Tigers had done with him and for him and through him and the kids that he served back then. But it's a big task, big tall task, a lot of hard work that people don't understand. But when you want to do it, you do it. So enough of the shout outs. I see Big D, Delshawn Woods, cuz, how you doing?
I see my cousin too, DC.
Yeah,
DC, what's happening?
DC, good seeing you, brother. Good seeing you. So we're going to talk about voting. We're going to talk about some black community issues, but we're going to start with this voting. And what we want to do is I want to talk about 3 different spirits. There's the spirit of there's a lot of people who say they don't want to vote or don't know who to vote for, and therefore they don't vote. I believe you said Brother Cornell made a post that he voted for some unknowns.
Yeah.
And so, again, we're not going to talk specifically about him because he may have done that or not. When you go in the ballot box, nobody knows who you're voting for. But why would we vote for a third-party candidate? And especially the third-party candidates now, nobody even ran. Nobody even put ads in on TV, or there's no big names that you're running as a third party. So what would be the reason you vote for a third party in your opinion?
I'm sorry, I was reading, Max. Say it again.
There's Cornell. Cornell's watching now. Cornell, comment on this. We're going to talk about your post of who you voted for, and it sounded like it was a third party candidate. So my question is, why in the world would anybody in this election vote for a third party candidate in your opinion?
Well, I can't think of a good reason other than
you see what he wrote. That's good to see, brother, and but they're still on there, and there's still people that's going to get a vote, and there's people who have said. So let's still answer that because.
And this is what I want to say. Like we kind of thought that Cornell that maybe it was a joke, but the danger in such a joke is when you post it on social media, and people that are uninformed about the candidates might get an idea like, oh yeah, I can just do that. So it might have a little ripple effect to it. Like I kind of figured that you were joking, that you didn't waste your vote in that way. I mean, not to be disrespectful to anyone who's voting third party, but I feel it's a wasted vote. I feel it's just like abstaining. And if that's your position and you just want to abstain from the presidential election altogether and just vote the local races, that's your prerogative.
And most of the time when you don't vote, unless you voted for the incumbent last time, you're voting for him again by not voting.
Mm-hmm.
because you've already put him in. Now he's being challenged, and if you don't vote for the challenger, then that's a vote that challenger can't get.
Right.
And so it's almost like you're voting for him. Mr.
And
President, how
that's
you doing,
Mr. President Moore from Belmont County. How you doing?
Good seeing
Good
you.
to see you. Great job down there.
Yeah, Brother Cornell said he posted that because he happened to see the names on the ballot and he just was making a joke. And but again, what I don't want to do is I want us to understand. I want to have the conversation. So maybe we need someone on here to tell us, why do you say that you don't vote? Why do you not vote? What's some of the reasons that you've heard? One is, let's start with the first one. Your vote don't count anyway.
Right.
What's the answer to somebody that says that? Is there an answer?
I don't really know. It's hard for me to form an argument around a concept that has no principle. It has no
Validity.
weight behind it because it's not based on anything other than this is what I feel like saying.
Yeah. When somebody says, I don't vote because our vote don't count anyway, it's almost like somebody saying, I'm not going outside tomorrow because it's going to rain. But they haven't seen the weather forecast. You know what I mean?
No,
like my point is,
it's almost like
it
somebody
could happen
saying,
that it's going to rain.
I'm not going to be outside. I'm not going outside because it's not going to be there.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. My thing is that most people have no 100% certainty that their actual vote is counted. However, it is assumed, and it has always shown to be that millions of people say they vote, and it says on the screen that millions of people voted.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is that to say that your vote don't count anyway, without no proof that it don't count,
Right.
why do you say that?
That's what I'm saying, and that's why it's so hard to argue against because it's not based on anything other than I want to. This is my excuse.
Yeah, Mr. President says third-party vote splits the vote, no matter how much you agree with the views. And that's actually correct, and that's why Minister Jett probably said that if you vote a third party, it's an abstain. You just really didn't vote. That's when your votes doesn't necessarily count because that third party has no chance to win.
Right.
Our system is a two-party system because of how people vote. Therefore, you have to, what most people will say, go with the lesser of two. The lesser of two. I'm sorry, the lesser of two evils. But this is what I want to get into. When people say they don't vote, it doesn't count anyway, or they don't know if they like either one of the candidates. What I'd like to know from that person is, how much do you know about both candidates in order for you not to like both?
Right.
Because if you haven't done your homework, then you leave your homework to other people. And so that's when you look to your brother, your uncle, your cousin. That's when you look to, did you watch a debate? What you like? What do are you a gun person or are you not a gun person? Are you a tax person or are you not a tax person? Are you a pro-life or are you pro-choice? You can vote one issue. You could be a one-issue voter, but at least you're a voter. A one-issue voter, to me, isn't a very good voter because there's so many things that rely on your vote. What about down ballot? Board of Election, City Council, state reps. You guys got any thought about that? If you decide not to vote for the president, doesn't mean you shouldn't go and vote everywhere else. Yes, you should vote for the president. Dr. Peterson honored us with her presence on our show yesterday, and I had made a statement that no matter who we vote for this year, that doesn't matter as much as it matters that we vote, and that from here on out that we stay vested. And so she said it does matter, and I do agree. It does matter. What I was trying to say is that we're not going to sit here and say, did you vote for Trump? Did I vote for Biden? Why did you vote for Trump? Why did I vote for Biden?
Right.
What I wanted to say is, did you get involved? Did you go all the way down the ballot? Are you going to be involved next year to get more people to vote? Because no matter who wins, we still need to do that tomorrow and the days after that. And so I did want to acknowledge Dr. Peterson.
I want to address. You're absolutely right, Jamie. Why would they update the tally? Why would they show the ongoing numbers if our votes don't matter? That's exactly right. It's like almost like we're so full of ourselves that we're convinced that the government is putting on this big facade in order to trick us into thinking that our votes matter when they actually don't matter. Which the government is big and powerful enough that if they just say, well, you know what, there ain't no more voting, what will be your next move? What will we do? Like, so they don't need to trick us into thinking that they have a system in place that's a farce.
And they, that's always but the they is always disconcerting. Who is they? Because the government is the people by the people. So even when you say the government is powerful enough to just do that, that's when you have a dictatorship, which is why our democracy is in trouble. Because that's exactly what the person in the White House has been doing lately. He comes and does and says whatever he wants to, irregardless of what the rules, past practice, democracy says. Go ahead.
Cornell says to me, a third party vote doesn't mean a vote for the other.
Technically, he's correct.
If you,
He's right.
Except if you come from a pool of voters of assumed loyalty. That there's a vote for the candidate that
you can go ahead and say who you're talking about.
Of your voting block
what you're
that
saying,
won't get your vote.
What he's saying is, Cornell, we're assuming that you're a Democrat. If you don't vote for the Democrat, it helps the Republican.
Right.
So if you're a Republican and you're pulling for the Republican and you decide not to vote, your non-vote supports the Democrat. It's that simple. Now, technically, no. Just because you don't vote, it's not a vote for Trump. No.
Right.
It's just not a vote for the person that's trying to overtake the office.
And since the goal is to get the most votes,
then
if you're getting less votes because some of the people in your party aren't voting,
exactly,
it helps the other party.
Exactly. If you're playing on a football field and there's 11 guys over there and you're on this team and there's 11 of us and you just decide not to play and you say, well, that doesn't hurt, that doesn't help the other team, I'm not playing for the other team.
Right.
No, you're not playing for the other team, but you have handicapped your team. Now, I just assumed, I don't know where you're voting, I don't know where your loyalty lies. However, it lies somewhere if you've ever voted before. Now, if you're somebody who has never voted ever, or you can't vote, you not voting, no, it doesn't help either or. So again, that would be my answer to you, and you can come back to me and say if you feel that's correct or not. Local and state are crucial. DC Harris says, and you're right, DC, but that's like, you know what that reminds me of when we say that? Reminds me of people that says, hey, it's all about the kids, and you get out there and you see people only worried about their kid. Right. Or people say it's all about the kids because they just know they'll get a clap behind it, but they never do anything for kids. You're right. We always say that all politics are local, except we never give any shine to the local politics. So let's talk a little bit about local politics, if we can, to talk about how crucial it is. We have a couple state representative positions. Now, in the NAACP, there's a lot of things that we plan to try to do here in the community, and it would behoove us to have a lot of information from the state, have an ally at the state level, particularly to Steubenville. The state representative has a region here, and it's more than Steubenville, but if that person comes from Steubenville,
right,
and already has his or her heart in Steubenville, that's an ally for Steubenville. That would probably be the reason why you see most people, like you did yesterday, you prompted people to vote for Mr. Oliveto. And I think part of that has to do with knowing his history, the amount that you know of his history, knowing that he's been a fighter and an advocate for the black community as it relates to some criminal justice things, and any kind of speech he has. He also rolls a lot with Brother Mayo, who's past President Mayo, and who does a lot for the community. So you would assume that they went back and forth about issues that if he's endorsing him, he must be pro-black community. So that's why it's important. You name it here in Steubenville, the state help, a state person that can help us with policy, a state person that can help enforce some things, a state person that can speak for us in Columbus would do us very good. And he'd be local enough for us to actually reach out to.
I'll let you take that one.
Which one?
The long one there.
Okay. While I'm reading that one, you take, because you touched on this yesterday, Lynn's question. Why do they try so hard to discourage you from voting if it doesn't matter?
That's exactly right, Lynn. That's a great point. It's almost like, do you know the levels of suppression that we've been through, from not having the right to vote at all to having to take a test in order to be able to vote, and a test that was rigged in a way that they wouldn't allow certain people to pass it. And then another level of that, when you even come to try to take the test, there's a mob waiting to jump on you. There, people have died. There's been marches, riots, everything. Why would a country go through all this to prevent somebody from voting if the votes don't even count in? If the votes didn't count, why wouldn't they just say, hey, everybody vote? Matter of fact, you can just sit at home and vote. We're gonna just call everybody. We're gonna call everybody in the whole country, and you just tell us who you want to be president, and we'll write. Like, if it didn't count, why would they try so hard to keep it from you?
And to me, that's very simple. Um, that's logic that we have to start operating by. Unless you have the actual reason, if you have the proof that the vote don't count, why say it?
Mm-hmm.
And so about something that's so important, however, I mean, I'm not saying that we don't say things that we like. When Cornell said what he said, he was just joking. Obviously, no harmful, no foul. You told him why it could be harmful, but we have to be true to that. The teacher, Alyssa McIntyre, basically talked about what I touched on yesterday. Is that she says people typically say that because they are only thinking about the presidential part of the election and thinking about the electoral college. However, they're only thinking about the presidential election. And then she goes on to say we have to remember that they are also voting locally as well. This is what affects your daily lives. We understand that racism is structural, and things won't completely change if Biden is voted in. However, that is why it's important to think about how you can evoke change at all times, not just during these times. Now and 12 months from now, we should be thinking of how we are working towards black liberation. This is hard work. And that's what I was saying before about it doesn't really matter what happens today. There's always consequences. That's not what I'm saying. There's no consequences. What I'm saying is those consequences doesn't stop us from being having to work. There's not going to be one of the people that gets elected that's going to say, okay, we're done now. No different than when Obama got elected. It didn't mean that we was in a post-racial
Right.
United States, as they tried to say, as we acted. We kind of we did our work. No, all this voting and stuff is not. That's the work. That's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
What we're doing is doing the work of trying to get people to wake up and do what they're supposed to do. As Miss McIntyre said, this has got to be a daily process. And so what we getting all these people elected, to register, and we want them to vote because then we want them to be active.
Right.
We want them to be knowledgeable about when is the next Board of Education election and who is going to run. When is the next city council seat up and who's going to run for that. We don't need to sit back and wait to have somebody run for it and then we listen to what they say. Let's go find someone who fits a person that we would want to represent us. Mm-hmm. Let's go to these different wards and find out who is going to represent our ward. Does everybody on here now, do you know what ward you're in, and do you know what council person is your representative? No matter if you're in Columbus, Indianapolis, Steubenville, Mango, Toronto, do you know who your representative is, your council representative is? Do you know the members of your Board of Education? Do you know who your state rep is? If you don't, find out. Because they're going to be on the ballot one day. Find out what they're doing. And again, I don't know everything the state representatives does. I mean, I know he votes on laws and things and makes laws, but we have to start getting more active, and we will within the NAACP. That's why the NAACP is so crucial, because those are the people who should come together, who's interested about these things, and work so that we can inform the rest of the community. And the NAACP and the churches have always been at the front and center in our community at that. And for some reason, that has stopped. Yeah. The churches have become, they are not a political apparatus, but they are a community refuge, whether it's food, whether it's love, whether it's knowledge, whether it's information, whether it's advocacy. The church has always been that in the black community since we have been in slavery and freed from slavery. And then Jim Crow, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, and whatever you want to call what we're in now. I call this the blind era, where we seem to have our eyes are clouded and we don't seem to see the things that we should see. And so, yes, that was a good one. You're right. Liberation work is hard. and this is what we need to always understand, and I try to tell everybody this in NAACP whenever I get a chance to, is that there's really nothing that I've heard black people, the black fight, the black ask, the things that we want, that they're not supposed to have. Nothing extra. I never heard black people ask for anything for them that other Americans don't already have, or that's something that they should have and not have. Anybody have any? I'll try to restate that. Everything that we ask for in the black community is something we should already have. Can you think of anything?
Can you hear me?
I'm live right now. But what you gonna say? You're going to the bank?
Oh, I thought it didn't matter when people were working.
Oh,
There's
okay.
not any patience. I can hear you guys see
Oh,
screaming,
okay.
clapping,
So,
singing.
so we had somebody trying to disrupt us. Said that thought it didn't matter if you talked loud while somebody working. So, guess that's how it works. Anyway, give me an answer to that. DC says, how do you feel about Killer Mike demanding that we as black people make a contract with the politicians that we want to endorse? I agree wholeheartedly. This is DC. This is a great question, and this is what we need to do here. What do we want our politicians to endorse? Do you know, brother? I agree with Killer Mike. I agree that we need to have that. However, you can't walk up on somebody's door who's running for office and give them what you want to. I need you to be about this, right. Because they can simply do like Trump did and say, "Okay, yeah, I'll do that," and then they get in and don't do it. You have to be prepared to have bullets in your gun. You got to be willing to shoot if you got bullets in your gun, so you can register that's your bullets. Voting is you having a loaded gun. Action afterwards. Pushing them is actually whether you're willing to shoot or not, because then you can vote them out because you're prepared. So I agree with Killer Mike saying that we need a contract with America. But Steubenville, the black community in Steubenville needs a contract. What do we want? What do we want, brother? Give me something. What do we want?
We want access. We want
Access to what?
To the teaching jobs.
Okay, so jobs. We want access to jobs. The first thing you said was teaching jobs. That's not the only job, correct? Mm-hmm. So then the NAACP, we got to have something, and the community needs to have some leadership take to the businesses, everyone who employs, and say, this is what we're not getting here. This is what we want. That's an agenda. That's a contract. And the contract will be them saying, okay, we'll do it. But my point is, what are we going to do if they don't do it? That's the big key. And the reason why nothing gets done is because they already know we're not going to do absolutely nothing, because we're never unified in anything. We don't join anything. We don't join any organization that actually does these things. And so in this situation right now, we've been talking about the NAACP. The NAACP action is numbers.
Right.
Membership is numbers. Working involved in NAACP is numbers. Going out learning, once you vote now, learning who's in office and what they support is working. That gives you credibility. And so, DC, I'm all with Killer Mike, but one thing you know about Killer Mike, I assume you follow him, is he's about work. He's about action. I don't know if anybody looked on that last live that we had. I put a YouTube interview there with Ice Cube and Antonio Moore. Antonio Moore started a group called hashtag ADOS, hashtag adult, American Descendants of Slaves. And on their page, they have an actual platform. They have an actual ask of what black people should get. And it starts with the reparations. And that's what we need to have here in this community. Steubenville blacks have put a lot into Steubenville, into every entity within Steubenville, whether it was the mills, whether it's the hospital, whether it's anything that the plants around here, the stores, whether we purchase, whether we shop, whether we work in these stores. The school system, all our kids, all of us has been through that school system. We played ball in those schools. The school system, the hospitals, that is ours too. And to be a part of that, we need to be getting our income from those places. We need to be getting our tax base from those places. The banks, we support all the banks here. That's where we go cash our checks at. You know, we should be able to get monies out of these banks. And those are the things that we're going to try to start doing. But we need a community that's involved. We need a community that really wants those things. We need leadership in the community that's willing to talk about those things. says it would take me 3 hours to go through what we need, laugh out loud, but definitely inclusion and decision making in all aspects of government. Exactly. A good one. Inclusion, obviously, and decision making. So you're right. When there's money that's going to be put in one part of Steubenville, why is it being put there?
Right.
Where's the next money going to be put if the last
That
money
goes
been put
into another thing that I was going to say that we is access to resources.
Okay, access to resources. Another good one. Access to the resources. And let me say this. At some point, and that's what happened when you have leadership. I'm sure, Minister Jet, you're in the church. We all go to church. A lot of times we listen to the pastor and he has the word from the Lord, and there's some admonishment to his people.
Mm-hmm.
The black community don't take admonishment well.
No.
Possibly part of it is maybe we don't have any leaders to get that from that we respect. But at some point, we got to start doing something. At some point, we got to start getting active. And so the decision making we want to be a part of, we can't say we want to be a part of a decision after the decision's already made.
Right.
We should already know that there's getting ready to be a decision made. How do you do that? You go to the city council meetings. You go to the Board of Education meetings. You go to the NAACP meetings.
Participate.
You participate. And unfortunately, we have to figure out a way that we can come together, not because I say so, not because you say so, not because Cornell says so, not because Lynn says so, not because Pastor Harris says so, but because we know so. And we just do it because we do it. But if we are urged, if we are pushed, if we are pulled, be pulled willingly, be pushed willingly. Listen to the, to the request. Go ahead.
Let me ask you guys something. How many people that are following this post right now? How many of you did all of you vote? I want to ask that, and I also wanted to ask you guys to share the post to your page so we can get maybe some different points of view. Different people can feed into the conversation, so we can have some meaningful dialogue, maybe some eye-opening revelation someone might have.
Well, I like Brother DC's post about inclusion and decision-making process being an aspects of it. Now, some of that we don't need to ask for; we can just do. But then Mrs. Coleman says, yes, that was going to be my next point. Now is the time we need to start supporting each other. The crabs in a barrel mentality is starting to be less. But we as a community need to stop basically being jealous of each other and understand what I have, that you have too. And I agree with that, Mrs. Coleman, because we have had the tendency to do the crabs in a bucket. When one black person gets up, somebody's pulling them down, or they have a jealous spirit that they decide to sit back. They don't want to join them or congratulate them. They're going to sit back, or I'll do my own thing.
It's almost like they're scared to see somebody, like, I don't want him to make it before me.
Yeah, and it's and unfortunately, and I don't mean to say this to be too facetious, but we don't have nothing to be jealous of anyway.
Right.
Like, we arguing over a ham sandwich when there's a smorgasbord out there. It doesn't make any sense that we do that. And I shouldn't have said maybe a chicken sandwich, because I know you know ham sandwiches. But anyway, so yes, Marlene, and I said that before. Sometimes we do things, and that's why I wanted to send you guys that video between Antonio Moore and Ice Cube, because it was one guy that said, I'm gonna do something, and then you had a whole bunch of black people sitting back judging whether he should have did it or not, instead of either getting their plan together, finding out what his plan is, and then calling him up and say, hey, I love that you're actually doing something, but can you add this to the plan? Can you add that to the plan? And he might say, where were you at? Hey, I didn't know I could do this. I'm glad you did it. Now I want to get involved because you're involved. Or say, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. You have a platform through your art. So when he asks you to come, your art doesn't solve the problem, because he only wants your fans so that he can get a picture with you. Once we explain that, he can simply say, no, that's not why I did it. That's not why you did it, but that's why he did it.
Right.
And that's what we need to do. So Marlene, one of the things I think what needs to happen with the crab in a bucket syndrome is that crab that's being pulled down, he needs to make sure how many crabs actually pulling him down. Because there might only be 2 crabs pulling him down, but there's another 16 crabs in the bucket. Go get them other 14 crabs, and now ask them too, why are you pulling people down? Because they might say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was doing it. say, I'm sorry, we're not going to do it no more. Or they may need to be sacrificed. Harriet Tubman didn't play. Like, if you're going to cost everybody else something, we need to get rid of you. You made the comment yesterday about don't get caught Tommen. Or what?
Well, you're going to get exposed.
And
you
exposed, exactly. And you be out of the community. Yeah, like my thing is...
I feel like I caught somebody Tommen today.
Oh, yeah. See, that's tough. That's a tough thing because you don't want to call out someone, but in order to stop it, they need to be called out. Brother Joby Jones, one of the hardest hitters ever to be in Harding Stadium. What do you got to say? Push them to be accountable. Put them on the news. Watch what they do. Pay attention to the council meetings because that will be on public record. And keep touch all year with the representative. With the representative. Consistency is necessary. Yes, sir. And that's something that's what we have to realize, Brother Jones, is that when we say this, there's a part of us that needs to make sure we recognize that we are talking about living in a community 101. That we are a community that really needs to go back to the basics. And we can't judge each other for it, but we do need to accept that responsibility that we are on the bottom end. And how I described that, trying not to be too condescending, was I said, now that we're going to start this NAACP back up, we are organically starting this organization. It's not about personalities. It's not about anything other than doing for the community. But we need to start playing checkers instead of chess. Okay. And what Brother Jones said is definitely important. And that's what we have done before in the past and thought that was the end of it. That's just the beginning of it. It's kind of like when you go to school. Homework isn't something that when you find out you do homework, it's all over. Right. Oh, I just wasn't doing my homework. Yeah, you do your homework so that you can then take a test. You take a test so that then you can take other tests. You take other tests so that you can get longer. Just hit that. That's fine. It's no problem. Just hit that. You just made it shorter. That's all. However, but that's a good point, consistency, and we're going to do that. And that's what we tend to do. The only problem is everybody, we got 18 people watching, and please share this, everybody. Share this so people can watch it later on. Because some of the things I found out in the NAACP is a couple things. We've started the NAACP up. We've only been active probably for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but we've been actually doing some things for the last 3, 4, 5 months. We've had about 10 to 15 complaints already. Mm-hmm. And out of the 10 to 15 complaints, about 12 of those complaints, 12 out of those 15, none of them were members. Like, how can you not join an organization that when you need something, they're one of the few organizations that you can go to get help? And yes, we help no matter what, but it says a lot about people.
Is that you?
Yeah, 1967. So that's an embarrassing situation for us, because a lot of times what we do is we think that we can, because I got a job, I'm raising my family, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, I think I don't need anybody else, therefore I'm not joining an organization that helps people, because I'm thinking I don't need no help. We can't be that short-sighted not to understand that we are all needed to help each other at the time that we need each other. Or if we never need that help, we should always be willing to help other people. It's too late to get life insurance once you've died.
Yeah.
It's too late to get life insurance once you've passed 70 years old, because nobody's going to give you that life insurance because your life is going to be done. Well, newsflash, if you're black in America, you are probably at some time going to need some support to get over racism or discrimination. Newsflash, at some point, you're going to need that. Now, a lot of people, they just ignore it. And you know what that is? It's almost like not voting. All it does is help the racist. Mm-hmm. All it does is help those who discriminate. Go
along to get along.
All it does is help those who want to be passive and not see that it's happening. When it happens, there needs to be accountability for that, and that's what we try to do in the NAACP. We can't solve anything. We're not a legal organization. We're not lawyers, and we're not the law. But what we can do is we can plead cases to the court of public opinion. What we can do is inform people and let them know when they've been wrong. What we can do is get in the streets if necessary and help people bring enlightenment to being treated wrong. Let's not wait until something happens before we actually get involved. Boom, good to see you watching, brother. Good to see you, Boom. Boogie Johnson, what's up, brother? Says Lynn Coleman, true, we need to educate and communicate, and that's true, and that's what we plan to do, is do a lot of education and communicate. So, guys, give me, does everybody, one of the things that I don't understand, and I do understand, but I only understand it because of what I think I've heard, and it's actually been true, or at least I've been able to get through. But I'm gonna ask you, do you understand the Electoral College?
I do.
Explain to everybody what the Electoral College is and how it's going to affect the actual today's election.
Okay. Well, so what the Electoral College is every state, based on their population, is assigned a certain amount of delegates. Those delegates vote for the president. Those delegates are committed to a certain candidate as a result of the individual votes of the citizens of that state. There seems to be some confusion about as if the Electoral College is just a group of men that sit in a room, have a conversation, and decide who the president is. If you think that's the case, then give me an example of when a candidate won the majority vote in Ohio and the other candidate got Ohio's delegates.
Now stop there. So basically what he said is there's a group of people who has the responsibility. They're chosen also, I think, by either the governor or by the Congress of that state. That's how you get elected. That's another thing we should find out, how you get to be one of those electors. However, one of the things he said is, you're right. There's never been a case where that didn't happen. However, there are some states like maybe 15, 20 of them that don't have something in their revised code that says that those delegates have to vote with the majority.
Right.
It's assumed they're going to do that because that's what they was assumed. That's what they was put in to do.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing in writing that says that.
Right.
Because of that, some people have heard that being said maybe on the news or something that, well, the Electoral College, they don't have to do that.
Right.
Well, no. Neither does the president. Neither do you have to go to court if you get a summons for court. But there's consequences if you don't.
Right.
So you don't have to go. So you are a delegate. You don't have to go to that day and show up and vote how you're supposed to vote. But you got to do what everybody wanted to know why you didn't vote like you're supposed to vote. And most people don't want to do that. But what we found out with your president now is when Congress called him to come testify, he said no. And when Congress told his people that work in the White House to come testify, he said, no, I'm not going to allow them. Mm-hmm. And when people that left the White House wanted to vote, he said, no, I'm not going to allow them to do it because that's still business from the White House and that's against national security.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, that power that the Congress is supposed to have to be able to call people to come testify in front of them, we just found out there's no check there.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there no check? How can the president do that?
Because there's no system in place other than impeachment to stop him from doing it.
Well, we have a constitution and it says that we have checks and balances.
Mm-hmm.
Legislation branch can check the judicial branch can check the executive branch, branch.
But once a certain party gains control of the Senate, a certain party gains control of the Supreme Court, then there's ways to circumvent those checks and balances.
If anybody can add to this conversation, some of you guys that may understand this a little bit, what I'm asking is that there's checks and balances. There's a constitution. There's laws. And the court of law simply says that if you have a summons and you are told to come to court, if you are told to come to Congress, they have subpoena power. You're subpoenaed to come to court. You are supposed to come. What I want to know is, why did not the president go? Why did not people that work for him go? Why did people who left him still did not go? And why did those people not come and testify? And what I'm trying to get to is if you understand
that, then you'll understand that your belief that if and when he loses this election, he's just not going to leave. And then what are we going to do about that? And if we can do that, then why didn't we do this?
Exactly right. Because what you'll find out in answering those questions is you'll come up with, well, there ain't nothing we can do. That's really what you're going to come up with. And what you're going to come up with, somebody will say, well, wait, what do you mean then? Because you'll be thinking, well, why ain't it never happened before? Because everybody's always honored the handshake. There was a handshake that was made. Our Constitution is an agreement made up, and it was sealed by a handshake. And everybody's always lived by that handshake until we got somebody in who was ruthless, rotten, no good enough to say, wait a minute, I'm not going to do it. But you didn't answer the question, why? Why can he do that? If there's checks and balances.
Because he's the commander in chief, and at the end of the day, he has the military.
Exactly right. Why can a judge make you come to court? And if you don't, what's the consequences?
Issue a warrant for your arrest.
And
because
who's going to arrest you?
He has the police.
Well, he don't have the police. Who has the police? The mayor, the executive branch of the whatever you're in, and so the police is going to act like so if the mayor already has said Minister Jett's going to court, he's not going. Are we going to go arrest him? Because the police work for the executive, they don't work for the judicial.
Right.
So the police can only do now. That courtroom bailiff, at the time, may take order from a judge if the judge says, "Hey, get him." But the only reason he can do that is because the sheriff has already told him.
Yeah, but the judge is the one that says, okay, he didn't show up, issue a warrant for his arrest.
Oh, I agree. Just like the Congress said,
Yeah.
issue a subpoena for President Trump and all the people who work for him. What happened? He said, I ain't going. What was supposed to happen was law enforcement was supposed to come.
I wasn't saying if the city manager didn't show up for court. I was saying you or I didn't show up. Then it wouldn't have to be the city manager that 60 police on us. The judge could do it.
Well, and I agree. And the judge is whatever committee is holding that hearing, and he's telling them, the bailiff and the clerk, send out the subpoena to these people. And what was supposed to happen was they followed through, but the president intervened and said they're not going. So whoever was in charge of the park police got their order from the president, sent to their boss, and told their boss, you don't send nobody out for them. See, and that's what I'm saying, as Antonio Moore was saying, we talking now. Like we trying to break this down to try to understand why people say this vote is about our democracy. Because the person in the White House does not care about democracy. And if you look at everything he's done since he's been in, it has been anti-democratic. It's been anti-statesman.
Even his language. He says, you lost the election. There's consequences.
It's your consent after the summons. I'm not sure what you mean, Jules. I guess he's saying you consent to go. Right, but the reason, why do you normally consent to go? Because then they can put an arrest out warrant for you for contempt of court. And then you might not come there, but you're going to go to jail and you're going to answer to a judge for not doing what you're supposed to do. But my point is, again, when you are in control of all the law enforcement, when you're in control of the gun, the military, the militia, whatever that is, that's the actual power.
He said, if you don't consent to the summons, the court has no power to force you to appear. Because a summons is a statute, not common law.
That's not true. Because you can be... No, the summons can't make you come for the summons. But when a judge says you're in contempt of court, that's what you end up coming to court for, is to stand trial for the charge of contempt of court. And since you don't want to go to the judge for contempt of court, then what can be that if you're found guilty of not doing what you say is not... Yeah, you cannot consent. However, if the judge, whatever the judge puts out is legal and it's binding. It's not a sentence. It's a request for you. It's a demand for you to come in and have your day in court. If you refuse to have your day in court, you are in contempt of court. You don't have to consent to it. That's when the police comes. Because it don't matter if you say you're going to do it or not, they're going to arrest you. And if you're a black man, we understand that could get a little bit.
Could be a death penalty.
It could be a death penalty. So if you so I believe what he's saying is, it's almost like you ever seen on the TV when they say, "Are you Minister Michael Jett?" and you know I'm delivering a summons or a subpoena. If you know that's what I'm doing, you can say, "No, I don't know where he's at." Then they say, "Okay, can you tell him? Okay, I'll come back later." But once you say you're you, You've been served. If you just don't have to go to court, why does he need to make sure it's you to say he's served?
Right.
Because once he goes back and says you've been served, well, no, you don't consent by just receiving it. You can. All you did was say, "This is who I am."
You just acknowledge who you are.
Exactly. And then that guy's going to, on his word, say he knows that you called him, Judge. And once the judge know that you're supposed to be there, and you don't come and do what a judge says, the judge then says this person has committed a crime, and I'm charging him with contempt of court. Now the police can arrest you for contempt of court. Now, when you get there, you can say, "Oh, Judge, the reason I didn't come is I didn't open that up. I didn't know that's what it was." And the judge can say, "Oh, okay, well, you're here now. This is what I had you for here now." And he may not charge you with contempt. He may drop the
I
contempt
agree.
charge.
That's not consent. It's almost like me showing up here and say, "Hey, I'm here to collect $500. Are you Michael McIntyre?" You know.
If I and I know and you can
And
I'm
you
the one
say-
that owes the $500.
And you say, "Yeah, I am Michael McIntyre." Is that consent to give me the $500?
Oh no,
Right.
not at all, not at all. Because the person asking you don't want nothing from you. But I understand what you're saying, Jules. There is some of those things, kind of like, do you have to talk? If the police talks to you, do you have a right to a lawyer and those things? And I understand where you're going to about the consent part of that. It's just that in this particular case, my whole point was simply this: when the cops show up, you're gonna do whatever they say do. And who's in charge of the cops? Tell you what, you know how you hear in history, you hear speeches and stuff that are history speeches or just powerful speeches. I think the best speech of our time, we hear a lot about President Obama's speech when he went to the Democratic Convention that year in 2000 and what, 2000 and that would have been 2000 when he spoke at the Democratic Convention. But anyway, that to me,
2004? Was it 2004?
no, I think it could have been 04 or it was 2000, either one. But it might have been 04 because he would have been, was he a senator at that point maybe? No, he might have just been actual Illinois senator at the time. I'm not sure. But anyway, that Tamika Mallory speech that she made in Minnesota, where she said, "Charge all the cops." When you look back at that speech and you just listen to what she said in that 2-minute spiel, she said so many facts with the right amount of vigor. And what she said was it's going to ring true down the centuries. We're going to go back to like in 10, 15, 20 years, that's going to be a video of seeing somebody talk. And I just thought about that because there was a policy in what she said. When you go back and look at it, one day we'll maybe put it on our phone, let everybody listen to it. But the reason I said that is that's the kind of urgency we need to have about the moment we're in. The street protests that we've been through, the early voting that we've seen happen. These are transformative times. What do you do with those things? If something happens to the point where we just stop voting again for another 10, 15 years, or we don't go back to the polls, or we stop registering people to vote, we'll be right back in this situation because this has happened over the years. All you got to do is look back to the civil rights. What happened right after that? There was a 5-10 year period where there was subtle gains just because of what had happened, but there was no real new leaders that came back and said, "Hey, it's not finished. What about this?" Like when the redlining started to happen. We hear about redlining now, but why was that not attacked viciously? Why didn't people go to jail after the civil rights acts and stuff that got put in the law? It just reminds me of why we still have Confederate flags. We still have Confederate flags because after the Confederate flag, when they made that deal and took our four acres and a mule, what went along with that rule was such disheartenment, I guess, on everybody's part that they just allowed it to continue to happen. When Martin Luther King died and we got those two bills, which was the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and also the Housing Bill of 1964, we kind of felt, okay, we got that and now our leader's gone, but we did get this, okay, we're good. And then things start happening and we just didn't come back, and that's what we got to know what's going on now. There was something, there was a piece that somebody said that during that time after the Civil War, because they said that the Civil War lost the war, but they won the peace. And what they meant was, well, the South had lost the war, but they won the peace. And what that meant is that once the peace settled, nobody got executed for treason. Nobody got life sentence for treason. They actually paid reparations to the enemy because of the damage that was done in the war that they caused.
Mhm.
I mean, that's saying something. That's saying something. Who pays their enemy after their enemy lost in a war? You pay them for the damages of the illegality that they did in the first place.
Yeah. What happened today?
And because they didn't do that, and because they didn't outlaw the Confederate flag like they outlawed the swastika over in Europe, it was just considered okay. That's how you win the peace. When it's peaceful, you can go back and doing everything you did, and now you just go along to the point where people say, "Well, that's just our heritage." It's treasonous. That's what it is. It represents your treason. It'd be almost like if you get caught cheating on your wife, but you still carry a picture, you still put a picture up of the girl you was cheating with in the house. Well, that's just my heritage.
Yeah.
That was from my past.
It's our history.
That's our history. And so, so where you, give me some predictions. Let's start here. What states that you've been watching you think is going to disappoint us? And when I say us,
Democrats.
yeah.
I just can't. I just can't imagine us winning Texas.
So that wouldn't be a disappointment, though.
Well,
What's a disappointment? Do you expect us to lose?
like
something?
you mean like a disappointment,
what-
like when we lost, like when we lost Milwaukee,
Yeah, Wisconsin. You mean?
Wisconsin. Yeah, when
Yes,
we lost
that
Wisconsin,
was a disappointment.
That was a
A
disappointment.
bigger disappointment was Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah.
Another disappointment was North Carolina last year.
I
And now they cheated in North Carolina, but they cheat everywhere. But it was very well known they cheated in North Carolina, but it was still disappointing. I think put it this way,
There's a danger of that happening in North Carolina again. I can't imagine it happening in Wisconsin and Michigan again.
so you don't think? See, I think Wisconsin. If Wisconsin comes through, I'll be shocked. Now Michigan, it would be a disappointment if we lost them again.
Why don't you have faith in Wisconsin?
Well, let me say this: the same reason why it's so shocking that Ohio has gone Republican. And some people say, why do you think that? Well, we're in a Democratic county that went 60-some% last time for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
However, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati has always saved Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I was disappointed that they haven't saved us the last two elections.
I think it was more of voter turnout.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what's disappointing.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to be an issue this time
Now let me just
because
say this.
the
Mhm.
early vote,
And you mean
the early vote is an indicator of record numbers.
this is true. However, what I'm worried about in the state of Ohio though is just what's been going on locally in our Facebook. How many of us has lost what I guess we thought was friends over this thing. So my point is, their turnout is increasing because of what they think they got to gain. They kind of like being able to be racist openly. I didn't used to vote because I always thought, I didn't care about that politics. It's all about what they call it, politically correctness.
Mm-hmm.
Once they found out, oh wait, it's in. Like we got our president of free world is racist. Like, oh, I'm gonna vote, and so people start registering. So I'm worried about that in the state of Ohio. However, I believe, which is the same reason I was disappointed in Michigan, because Detroit, Flint, and some of those places so heavily populated.
I think he's already had
that push.
that bump. I think that's how he got.
You think
it.
that's how he got it?
I think those people. He went and found.
Let me tell you this.
Those rallies. He went and found those.
See,
people.
I don't believe that. This is what I think happened. I think what happened to us last time was what we found out on Facebook while he was in. They had already done that on election day. In other words, they went in and we thought they was going to vote the right way.
Mm.
They voted the way they want to in hiding. Once he won, now they don't have to hide. Now they've gone and get their buddies because their buddies been incorporated. Now they got people who are just so. They didn't even understand how to vote. They want to vote now because they was on the truck train. That was so much fun. We went in black neighborhoods and we said the N-word all day. Like this there. Yeah, like it's fun. Like it's fun to them. So again,
I gotta use the bathroom.
good deal. We wanted to have that type of a conversation to start to realize, what do we have going on? What do we have going on here with this election? What's actually on the ballot? One of the questions that I'll ask Minister Jet when we come back is that I tried to put myself in the position of figuring out that if I was going to vote for Republican this time for the president at the top of the ticket, what is he telling me that he's going to do for the next 4 years? Because I haven't heard one thing. And what I'm contrasting it to is 4 years ago, we knew we were going to get the wall. We knew we were going to be getting conservative Republican judges. We knew that he was going to get rid of Obamacare. We knew that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. We knew that the rich was going to get a tax cut. So, Minister, I need you to answer a question. Let's go on the other side. Let's pretend we're Republicans.
All right, give me a minute to recover because you really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a serious issue, and I really like. But that was funny.
Well, it was funny because it was true.
Yeah, it was true.
And it's so almost.
Well,
sad.
it's never scary because it's true. It was funny because it was just that was good comedy. He said we said the N word all day.
Yeah, and nothing happened.
Yeah,
Actually, it was welcomed.
yeah.
But I said this. Let's pretend we're Republicans.
Okay.
We're voting for the head of the ticket, the guy that's in the White House now. What is he going to give us the next 4 years? What has he told us he's going to do for us? What policies is he?
Well, I'm assuming if you're looking for what he's going to give us, I'm assuming.
No, when I say us, I mean us as in everybody that voted for him last time. Because
what is he going
contrast,
to? What is he going to give
I'm
them?
comparing that to this.
Well, who he's going to? I'm assuming that you're in there.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask the question again.
You mean millionaires?
Well, he promised a whole lot of stuff the first time he ran. What has he promised this time?
Well, he came through on the wall.
No. I asked you, what is he? It's
in my backyard.
But what is he promising to do now? This 4 years. He had a group. See, remember he promised the wall.
Mm-hmm.
He promised to ban Muslims, get rid of rapists and whatever from Mexico,
In foreign trade.
end Obamacare, end NAFTA, get out of all those things. Like, he didn't end Obamacare. He said he's going to make Mexico pay for the wall. He didn't build the wall. He didn't make Mexico pay for the little bit of itty bitty wall that he has put up. He didn't get rid of Obamacare. Like, everything, almost a whole bunch of stuff he said he was going to do fast, quick, he did not do.
Right.
Nobody's holding him accountable for not doing that. He's still got these rallies. And so now what he's figured out is, because my answer is, he hasn't promised nothing.
Because it was never his politics or policies they were attracted to. It was his boldness and his disrespect.
And his racist.
His race.
His acceptance of racism.
I don't love his politics. They love his racism.
You're right.
Like, I love his boldness and
the ability
and
for me to be able to express
political
mine.
correctness. Because I guess that's when what they call it, draining the swamp. I'm guessing the swamp is the pool of political correctness.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Anybody don't agree with him.
Right, and then you drain that by saying, you know what, I don't care about political correctness. I don't like people. I'm allowed saying it. You can say it too.
And all while he's been saying that and stuff, political correctness on our side has reared its head and said, how do you do that? You can't. That's despicable. Did you hear what he did? He's dealing with Trump. He's dealing with Russia. Mm-hmm. He's keeping his business while he's in. You can't do that. There's the emolument clause that says when you become president, you cannot still run a business. He says, okay, I won't. And he still just did it. Mm-hmm. They say when you're president, you got to be... Like, my point is, how much disrespect for our democracy, how much disrespect for the Constitution, how much does he have to say, I'm going to do whatever I want to where we realize that he's going to do what he wants to? Mm-hmm. And what I've been saying before is, what makes you think that he wants to leave the White House? And who's going to make him?
Well, I'm in agreement.
I need somebody to tell me because Bill Maher asks it all the time. I don't know how many of you guys watch Real Time with Bill Maher.
Yeah.
He's been asking it, and he had a little thing on is how many times he said he wasn't going to leave and stuff, and then he played this montage of how many times Trump said, yeah, he keeps saying I'm not going to leave, and he keeps saying I'm not going to leave, but he never says I am going to leave. Like, and nobody answers because he keeps asking him, what are you going to do if he decides not to leave? Oh well, he wouldn't do that. Oh well, and then the answer to that is he wouldn't. Exactly.
I'm thinking like
What
when you say when you make the statement he wouldn't do that. I'm curious to see that list of the things he wouldn't do.
Jamie Tanea. Hey, I'm going to take my stab at it, and then we'll let Minister Jet take his stab because mine is going to be quick. I have no idea. Let me say this. I don't know for sure, but let me tell you what I think. They hold one of the biggest offices in the county because they approve all budgets in the county. They do the appropriation of money. There's probably some other things they may do. I think they may approve hirings or make hirings.
I liken the position of county commissioner. I will say this, Jamie, to try to help you to put it in perspective. Governor is to president what city council is to county commissioner. That's how I would liken it. I think the county. There's 3 seats on the county commission. They operate in such a way as city council does at the city level. So that's how I would. That's the only way. That's the best way I can describe what a county commissioner is and what they do. Is it's a scaled down version of a broader territory. Like city council, we have 7 people, and they basically run the city government, and the
County government.
the city I was talking about city council.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The county government, the county commissioners would act as that body for the county, and there's only 3 of them.
Now, part of that difference is that the county commissioner's power, I say it's more so because of the money aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
What's a bigger job?
it's a bigger job and less people, therefore more power for those people in. In other words, they got more of the power.
Right.
They don't have to split it between 7 people, but they even got more people than
Right.
those that they're responsible for or
Yeah.
that they govern. The other thing about that
And that's
county
why I
commissioner
said.
seat,
That's why I kind of did the governor president.
exactly right. Exactly right. And that was a good analogy. I was just trying to say, because your question is very good and we need to figure that out. And I apologize that I don't know. And I asked somebody that before. I asked the person, what does the commissioner do? What I asked the question was, how can the county commissioner job, what can the black community, what should they be seeking from a county commissioner? Part of that came from the position of there's 2 county commissioners running. I know both gentlemen running, one incumbent, and I know Mr. Littlejohn not very well, fairly well. I know him, and I know Maple fairly well. The other guys I don't know nothing about. And so I was just wondering, what should we expect from those 2 men? Because usually everything we do has got to do with the city or the state.
Mm-hmm.
The county is so much less populated, black.
See,
populated.
I'm now that's where I'm kind of like you. For one, I think we only make up 1% of the county.
Oh, I thought it was like 3 or 4% myself. But I think it's between 1 and 4%.
Okay, and
As high as 3
and
and
I
as
don't
low
know.
as 1.
I don't know what the resources of the county. Obviously, metropolitan housing is but
I
is
don't
that
really.
federal?
That's state.
That's okay.
I believe that's state.
So I don't know what
And some HUD. I'm sure they get some HUD funding.
I don't know what the resources of the county. You know what I mean? I don't know what resources they govern.
Well, they still have the county still gets a tax base.
Yeah.
So, because all the municipalities don't get. Let me just say this. And the other thing you got to realize in the county, Jamie, is that some of the positions that the county would be over, kind of like how the council would be over. They're over the county. I mean, the street department guy, the rec guy, You know, whereas in the county, a lot of those positions are voted in, so the commissioners aren't over them.
Right.
So the coroner, the clerk, the sheriff, the prosecutor, the judges, they're all voted in too. So they're all on an equal plane. So those people have powers in their lane. The county commissioner has the power, I say, because they're in control of their budgets. So they get their power, whereas you don't want to be on my bad side if you're the sheriff, because when it comes time to give your budget and you ask for that extra stuff for this, if you don't have two of the commissioners that you know going to vote with you when you submit your proposal for your
Right.
budget. So hopefully that, yeah, what to expect. And I would say what I'm going to expect is I'm going to be in the county commissioner's face at different times, finding out where they land on certain issues, and do some study in various, whether it's education. What is the county, because we have that county services board of education for the county up here. What can they do to make sure that kids on IEPs and down at in the Steubenville City school system or Indian Creek school system or wherever there's any black kids at, what's the requirement that they should get for their IEPs? Is the money that's coming from the state or federal going to the right places, and
my
are we
goodness,
getting
there
the
was-
things that
there
they
was
should get?
something else. There was something else that somebody just told us about that was similar to the IEP.
And what an IEP is, it's an individual education plan in the school system. And normally, I don't know if Teacher McIntyre is watching or if we have any other teachers that might be explaining, but I think it's kind of like it's something that's given to the kid that he can be set aside to get some extra training in certain areas, or if they can't be in the classroom at a certain time, they have a period where they can get some extra training or extra learning in, and that's called an IEP. And there's some other things with that we need to work on and study and know for our kids' sake of how that's being operated, and if the entirety of what it's supposed to do is being done in all schools and all school systems.
That's it. The 504. That's
What's that?
So what that is similar to the IEP, but it doesn't carry the stigma
Okay.
with it. And who takes advantage of this is usually the teachers and their kids.
Okay.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Because they know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's something
Yeah.
that the county commissioner can help out through the county board of education to put pressure on the city's board of education or superintendent or what have you. Again, I think, Jamie, because it's a very interesting question, what we should be expecting, because
It's a good
we
question.
need to be able to
and,
use.
I appreciate that.
We need to be used whatever needs to be used in order to create some kind of political power, some kind of political will, some type of ideology, policies that can help us push forward the black agenda, as we also hold ourselves, as Brother Joby Jones said, ourselves accountable for how much that we should be getting, and when we aren't doing what we're supposed to be doing, help parents, help us do the things we're supposed to do in order to require and demand the things that we should demand. Ms. Coleman made another point. She said another thing to worry about, if things turn out the way that we would like it to turn out, you have a 2-month period of time until the time.
Right.
And she said the worry could be what gets done in that lame duck session, that lame duck period. Or even worse, I guess, is what she's saying. I didn't follow that. If he does get elected, he's a lame duck president. He's not going to do anything because he ain't got nothing to worry about. However, you're right. He will never run again, but he ain't never leaving. That's even worse. He definitely ain't leaving then, because he's going to say, I've been put in twice. People really don't want me to leave, and I don't really know if I have to leave. I'll get the Supreme Court to check on that.
Yeah.
Watch how many times he refers to the Supreme Court now,
Mm-hmm.
because you know what? Those are questions that are nightmarish at times. If you take them out to their even logical conclusions, because if you look at his behavior, what would make you think that his behavior is going to get better, and what makes you think that if it doesn't get better,
when he never
it's
has
gonna...
when he never has to be elected again? We've seen him at his best behavior.
Yeah.
We've seen him.
Now you being a comedian.
We've seen him at his best behavior. He, after tonight, he never has to be elected ever again. So all the political correctness that he made, the ounce that he had, is going to be gone because I don't need anybody to like me anymore. Just do what I say.
Jamie, that's an awesome. I thank you, Ms. Coleman, for that. Basically, she said the IEP requires an additional instructor. So you'll see sometimes two teachers in a classroom, maybe an assistant teacher or some helper that helps kids. Like if they're on 101, if they're on 102 reading, they need to be on 101. Somebody's helping them at 101 during the reading time. Whereas a 504 gives them additional time to be maybe in another group or something. So one is give you more time to do things. One gives you another instructor to help.
Or somewhere by yourself.
Or by yourself, or exactly. But Jamie, excellent again. And Jamie says the reason she was asking on what does the commissioner exactly do is that if we have a commissioner with our same agenda, wouldn't people like the sheriff and some others in that county want to kind of fly a little straighter so that the commissioners make sure that they'll treat them good when it comes to giving out the money for the budget? You're right. That's how things happen. And that's another reason why it's important. But this is the thing that we have to understand, Jamie, and everybody that's on this, and what the NAACP has to let our community understand, is that you're describing a sense, you're describing politics. You're describing a group that we don't even know our politics. We may say it at times, but we don't have it in a politic form. And politic form requires registration. It requires voting. It requires having an agenda so that who's ever running for your vote needs to be spouting your agenda. Therefore, if not, you need to find someone that you can then put out there and support and let them know, we all vote. We can put you in. We like you and what you're saying, and you understand us. Whether you're white or black, we think you understand what we want, so we want to put you in office. That takes work. That takes committees. That takes being when you say intentional about your politics, about your community. And so you're exactly right. That's what needs to happen. But what happens now is if you go to that one person and you try to hold them to accountability to do right with the way you think in the community that you're in, if that person does not fear you because you have no power behind you, you can get some kind of, get one thing just dismissed. You can get told a lie and said, yes, I'll do that. You can be cast out amongst others, talked about wrongly. Like some people with power don't want you come questioning about what you want them to do.
Right.
And therefore, what needs to happen is you have to be a part of an organization. You have to be a part of a people. You have to be a part of a community. You have to be a part of a voting block that gives that information to those people so everybody knows how that politician treated you. Then if you get that word out, other people will go up to that politician and say, I heard you was talking and saying you ain't going to do this, or you don't want to do this, or you act like you can't talk to people. And if they still don't think you put them in or that you're going to vote, they're going to treat you just like that. And that's exactly how we've been treated all over the country, a lot of places in the country, and to some extent in this area, as it relates to what Brother Harris said earlier was we need to have inclusion and be a part of decision makings in our community. And we're never included and we're never given any power for decision making because we're not respected when it comes to today. We do not go to the ballot box. We do not register. We do not get involved in board meetings. We do not get involved in council meetings. We do not get involved in commissioners meetings. We don't run for offices, but we do complain. And we will get on each other. And if we don't do something about that in some way, and Minister, let me get a hot button for both of us. However, you've been called to serve in a little different way than I have, so I call it a hot button for you. There has to be some admonishment to our churches. There has to be or if not admonishment, there has to be an inquiry into where are you at as it relates to these issues. And when I say where are you at, I don't just mean the pastor. I mean the leadership of the church that pastor in some denominations report to. that's not spiritual. Obviously, the pastor doesn't report to anybody on earth about spiritual things. However, as it says in John, I leave you in the world, but not to be of the world, but to be in the world and be the salt of the world. And so the Christians of this world that are part of their flock, that flock needs to be taken care of on earth also. And the Bible is full of things where Jesus was an advocate for the oppressed. It's full of that. We understand that. So there's a lot of, it's not a coincidence that in the civil rights era in the 60s and even before that the church was instrumental in the civil rights fight, instrumental in making America do the right thing, being the conscience of America. It was always the black church. What do you say about that? Am I wrong? Am I right? There's very varied opinions and you have a different one? What is it? Speak on it, please.
I would feel better if the body of Christ as a whole had a position in these affairs,
right?
In the protests, in the exercising the rights. If some of the churches could even be a hub on the front lines for providing rides to the polls and things like that. I just really...
Let me just say
it's
this.
hard for me because I'm not a pastor. Well, I'm a youth pastor. But it's hard for me. I don't know what God's vision for each house is. Is different. And so it's hard to make a broad statement about what churches should do or what the leaders of churches should do when I don't know what God has told them to do.
Let me say this. I'm going to give my thoughts, my discernment about what I've read and in my Christian walk. The Ten Commandments don't need to be God don't need to give a pastor the Ten Commandments to give to the flock.
Right.
The Beatitudes don't need to be rethought about on whether or not the flock should get that. I say that to say that the part that I'm thinking that the church would do has nothing to do with the vision that a certain shepherd has been put to do. I don't think that the vision of helping the oppressed has to be given individually. I think that's just goes with the territory, no different than evangelism. Now, I'm not saying that a church, there couldn't be a calling on a certain pastor that's a talent that God has given him.
But what I'm saying, when you say helping the oppressed, what's that look like?
Well, I think what it looks like is
because what I'm saying,
I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like they're passing a bill down at the city council, and the bill's going to raise the water to the point where a lot of the people that's in the certain church can't afford because they're black and they don't have jobs. Or they're giving out jobs all the time, and the people that's in this flock never get those jobs, and so the poverty rate is such because there's the powers that be won't be fair. My point is, I'm saying that the oppressed is being hurt, speaking up for them. And what I mean is, I don't expect the church to come down and put the Bible out and read the Bible and tell the councilmen to do right. I think they're coming out because they're standing up for their brother. And we want to be treated right. Like when Martin Luther King went out and did what he did, yes, a lot of things he did was probably Bible-based as far as the fight is a righteous fight. Therefore, it's God's people's fight. Because anything righteous, to me, has to do with God. If it's right, it's right. So what I'm just saying is...
So you're saying the church needs to do things on a bigger scale.
And when I say the church, I don't want to say it like when you said the government as a they thing. It's an us thing. So everything we said about us, in a perfect, in the world that we would like, everybody that's us that shows up at the meeting is also part of a church. But just like in any organization you're in, the leader is heading it up. That's where it comes back to pastors and leadership within the church. Are you involved in doing what's right for the community? You can come up with a ministry Is that part of the oppressed? So if you have a soup kitchen, obviously you're feeding the poor. But if there's monies that's for poor and you have a soup kitchen, your advocacy in organizations that try to get that money can help see that that money is spread out amongst everybody and that actual ministry gets some of that money too.
Right.
I mean, again, I don't want it to be and the question the question isn't an indictment. The question is, should there be an indictment given? Where's the boundaries? Why has church changed? Did Reverend Abernathy and Reverend Shuttlesworth and Reverend Martin Luther King and Reverend Jackson and Reverend Sharpton and all the many reverends and pastors that was in the civil rights fight, did they get it wrong? Because what has been said in the part that you see people talk about this is that when Bush got in and did the 1,000 Points of Light and changed church into faith-based initiatives and government can give you money, it changed into more of, we don't want to be too wrong because if we ever want any money, we can't get it. And so therefore, those big churches and those big people who was setting the tone around had given up that type of a fight that Jesse Jackson then was doing in order to get monies for mega churches that started to blossom in the 80s and 90s. Therefore, it never sprinkled down to some of the pastors who were then being trained by them. That part of street advocacy that went along with street ministry, that went along with being involved in the politics of the people, that would have went along with the perfecting of the saints. All that can work hand in hand. And I just think that that's the last area of leadership in the black community. It's always been there at the church level and all the other places that it used to be. So for instance, in the civil rights area, they talk about the 15 to 20 different organizations that popped up and that was doing things. We don't have a lot of that anymore. Any organization that pops up now is all about the money in an indirect way to do their own thing. So there's that mentoring program out there to help kids, but this is how we help them. This is the money we need, and this is what we do for them. We feed them hot dogs, or we do this. No, the entire community, like has issues with economy, with jobs, with health care, disparities, education disparities, wealth gap, jobs, like
So let me ask you this.
representation.
When you say that, what are the answers?
I don't know. The answer for what? The answer for how
The
to help
answers-
help to get.
So how do you, when you the different things that you
Yes.
named where we have lack,
Yes.
what's your vision for the church's role in bridging the gap and being provision in your vision?
I don't have necessarily a vision. If I had a vision, I've not worked that out. So my vision was simply been what I've seen before. So no different than if somebody asked me, what kind of leadership do you expect in the black community? Because we don't really have a lot of black leadership in the community. I can only know what leadership we've had or that I've followed or that I've seen. And you always start with Martin Luther King. That's why he's considered the greatest American ever. It's because leadership starts with what he was able to do and all the people around him who were leaders and followers, what they did and what they accomplished. Mm-hmm. And so my point would be is simply, I'm looking for any pastors that fit and reverends and deacons that fit those civil rights activism that went on. As it relates to what the answer and how that happens, I never really heard Martin Luther King say that God was leading him to do every move he did. Mm-hmm. I just only heard him say, God wants what's right for his people. Therefore, because he's a spiritual person and God is his master, leader, he's going to do and say the right things and he's going to speak up. And no different than if he's preaching a sermon and the sermon says be bold to preaching the gospel. be bold in preaching the Beatitudes. Be bold in suffer the little children. Be bold in all the things that Jesus has said out there for your people. When he, have you visited uh, the sick? The sick. Have you visited? Did you visit me when I was in prison?
Right.
Did you, all those things that we are supposed to serve the people. So the solution is for us to do it. Every single person that's a Christian should be out here doing those things, and it would be and it would be great. It could be a deacon of one church, but that deacon has the ear of every other leader, including the pastor and the people, and 60% of that whole entire church is also advocating somewhere and doing something, showing up at city council, showing up at board of education meetings, showing up at commissioners meetings, showing up during rec board meetings, during water board meetings, because somebody's being down at the courthouse, showing up at the chief's door when we have murder and it's not being solved, or when something's been done to an individual in the black community and it seemed to be consistent. It would show if we had it. We don't have it. So I guess my question would be is to inquire and get the answer for why we don't, because maybe I don't know the answer. The answer is this is not what we do. They were wrong when they did it, or they were doing it under some different auspices, or we don't have the situation now that we had then. I don't know what that interpretation would be, but in the last 10, 15, 20 years, no matter who it's been in any of the churches of the 15 to 30 churches we have in Steubenville, I haven't seen anybody black or white out on the forefront. Like, you ever heard of Father Flager? Okay. The white father from Chicago. You've never seen him, his activism or nothing before?
Well,
It's a white preacher. Maybe you didn't know his name.
And was he? Was he on a Facebook Live with Farrakhan?
Could have been on a Facebook Live with. No. Well, I've never seen that one. He did a lot of work with also Reverend Barber. On the Poor
I
People's
seen
Campaign.
somebody that
Did he have a collar on?
Yeah.
That might be him then.
Yeah.
That's probably him. And my thing is, now he's not the only one. There's some that's out there. And I think there's no particular reason on his denomination or his color. I just know that he wears his collar all the time when he's doing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my point is that I don't know why he does that. You know what I mean? But he does it.
Right.
And he's not restricted from doing it because of his calling, because he don't mind wearing that. It's almost like he's saying, I'm supposed to be doing this, that's why that's my uniform in
Right.
doing what I'm doing. And so the problem we have in the black community, unfortunately, is there's a perception you can't even ask. Like, there's a perception that the response you may get may make you feel little. Therefore, don't ask. And obviously I'm be asking, you know what I mean? Because I want to know. But it's not just me that needs to ask. You need to ask. Every single person on here need to ask, unless they already know. Is the church going to be at the forefront of the revolution? Is the church going to be at the forefront of getting reparations? Is the church going to be at the forefront of stopping oppression? Is the church going to be, like you said, at the forefront of registering and taking people to the polls?
Well, that's what the Bible says that it would, because the Bible says the government shall rest upon the shoulders of the church.
Yeah. So I think there's enough history, there's enough Bible, there's enough respect that at some point in the city of Steubenville, all 15, 20, 30 churches should be inquired. What is the people that are oppressed? What should they?
This is what I think. I think it's more towards a point that you made earlier that was big to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the people that want to see change need to come to the realization that we are the church.
True.
Because if people come to the realization that we are the church, collectively and individually, then we can actually become the change that we want. I think we're thinking of the church in the physical form of individual buildings, and not looking at the church as the body of Christ, and looking at each individual as they are
A part.
a
body.
themselves, a church.
Okay.
I am the church. You are the church. Collectively, we are the church. And so, because what you're saying is, it speaks to permission. And you don't need permission if to do something that's already been ordained by God.
And that's not what but I think that's a great point. But that's not what I was talking about.
Okay.
Let me tell you where the difference would be from what you said. Martin Luther King. How many times did you see him delivering a political speech in the church?
Oh, often.
How many times in history had you heard that meetings was being held about political things inside the church?
Well, the NAACP started in the church.
Again, so my point is simply this. When they had the meetings, it was in the physical church.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
When
but that's because the people who are the church.
And my only point is, how many times do you remember? Again, not saying it didn't happen because I know it did.
Mm-hmm.
My point is, it's not in your mind because that wasn't what was the focus. How many times did you see a layman person giving a speech about the political situation in the pulpit?
No, not often.
So all I'm trying to say is, all that is right. Are we trying to get away from that part?
Well,
like, like my point
I'm
is,
not trying to get away from
I
that
know
part.
you're not.
What I'm trying to get, I'm not trying to get away from anything. What I'm trying to do is get into my part.
Well, the reason I'm saying that is
because
and your part was in all that too.
The other part is not up to me.
Well, let me just say this. So are you saying, in other words, would you be saying this? Remember we had the protests down there or whatever it was, the gathering down there in front of the things? I remember the first one, Bishop Moore was down there. Should everybody have came up to him and said, Bishop Moore, we want you to be the leader of this? And then he either says yes or no. And then that's the answer to my question as it relates to that one specific person. And that could be done all the time.
I don't know.
Should the masses go to each individual pastor in this community and ask them to lead?
I don't
because
know.
It looked like they just led.
Right.
And so therefore, obviously the people they already lead is going to be involved in what they're leading. Mm-hmm. I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I just don't think it ever had to be, it never got asked. It didn't need to be asked. There's a time it didn't need to be asked. And I think that you're right. Some of us have that perception that it don't need to be asked now. We just don't have it. Mm-hmm. But some are saying, should we ask? Because we've already assembled. So in somewhat, the church has already assembled. We just looking for the leader. You know what I mean? In some respects, I don't want to, you know what I mean? I didn't want to get it to the point where we're, you know, you're at a disadvantage in the conversation because you're active at a church, you're a pastor of a church, and you have a pastor. The perception would be that we're talking specifically you. No, I'm talking about, what's her name? The woman that died that used to go all over the place doing things for Mother Teresa. So I'm talking about every single father at the head of these Catholic churches in Steubenville. Why aren't they out talking about the oppressed? Like they have no problem. Like my point is, like you said, like we were talking, there was no doubt when they have the pro-life displays, there's no doubt it comes from Franciscan. It's no doubt it's the students. It's the church that's doing it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, they've been compelled and probably pushed or guided to be political when it comes to what they feel is they're being oppressed. They feel that the unborn is being oppressed, or their religion, you know, their interpretation of their religion is being pushed. Mm-hmm. Therefore, since they're feeling that Jesus is being pushed and they need to stand up for Jesus to some extent, you know, we seem to not have that. And we had that at one time, and that was prominent. And so as we look for solutions in everything, we have to stop by that solution too, or we have to stop by that and ask that. And that needs to be known. Anybody have any comments on that? I figure that might, Mike and Mike, what's up, young lady? Madam Vice, hopefully everything's doing good with you. Miss talking to you. Haven't heard from you. Would love to get a call from you or something, or I can reach out to you. But love to have you in this discussion and get into some discussions with you when you're ready to come back and do the things that you can do. But I'd like to see, and even this, like we've had a lot of different people respond, but nobody responded to that church comment. Those church comments. It's almost Baldwin talked about. I love this country so much, which requires me to be able to critique my country.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the church. I love the church so much. It requires me to wonder where we at. And yes, it's that physical church, that physical presence. Yes, it's those physical people. And yes, it's that, to me, it's always been that guidance. It made you feel no different than when they talked about David. The problem with David was he should have been out on the battlefield, because that's where the work was. Working on the battle for my Lord. You wouldn't have been doing that. Where are we at when the battle's going on? And so a lot of things we need to cover as it relates to these things. And as we sit here on election night, that we are getting ready to wrap up, that we've been on for a nice little bit of time now. We've had some good discussion. We're going to be back probably, when do you think we can come back to discuss at least election night?
Well, maybe we can. If I'll be back over later.
What was your comment? Oh, I see your one comment that we didn't. She made a good, interesting comment. Mrs. Coleman said, there are some black PAC groups out there. We need to come together. We have enough money and power now. And for those of you who don't understand, a black PAC, basically what she means is a PAC, a political action committee. You can form those, and you can get money from the government, and you can raise money, and it'll be tax-free or a tax write-off, and you don't have to pay taxes on it. But if you can form a political action committee for a certain thing, and then collect money to push that agenda. And what she's saying is we need a black PAC. And again, that's great. We can set another organization up. But the NAACP is already set up to be just that. And every political issue that Black America has, the NAACP has a stance on it. That black people, that helps black people. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that's the only one. We have the National Action Network. We have the Urban League. And there's other organizations. I talked about ADOS now, which I think has a great way to set our politic, and it should be grounded and based under reparations. It should be, because it traces our history and talks about everything, the problems that we have, stems back to the white supremacy government that had been set up back with the Constitution. And that's a great way to get that done. Sorry, I thought my mind flew. Robbie Shelley, hey, what's up, guys? Rob Shelley, what's happening? We got to get you on the sports one. We're going to get you soon. We're going to get a sports going, get you on some college football, since we actually have that now, as I know you say that's your specialty. But we're going to try to start getting, we need to start getting people one by one, get them on here, and they need to bow. We'll put Pritchard LeBron, every knee should bow.
Well, I ain't going to do that.
Oh, okay.
He's the king, so you acknowledge the king in the way you see fit.
Curtsy then. I don't know.
Kiss the ring.
Kiss the ring. Okay, that's fine. A lot of churches, unfortunately, suffer through the crabs at the barrel. Yeah, this is true. A lot of pastors worry so much about getting large congregations, they don't remember their calling, so they won't join together. And I again, there's a lot in that, Lynn, and I'm not going to say you're wrong for sure, because that's a blanket statement, and I think you're talking about more specifics than you may care to say. And I don't want to get caught blanketing churches, but you're right in that where it fits, where it doesn't, it doesn't. And so that's two conversation. Where that fits, that's a reason. How do we stop that? And where that doesn't fit, where that doesn't fit, then why? You know, there may be some other reasons, and I think we should try to figure out all the reasons. As far as them being jealous or competitive and things like that, as Minister Jet said, it starts with us. It starts with the congregation. It starts with the leadership, because the pastor's not alone. He could be preaching to the choir. You know, the choir, he may have the choir, but he's still got the lay persons out there in the congregation that should be choosing and praying for their pastor, and that would be a very good issue for the church to start praying on and fasting on, is to get there to see if their church should be at the forefront of trying to stop the oppression that they themselves are experiencing. Rob said, I used to serve as a deacon in the church. You guys got my attention. Yes, so the NAACP should come together and start grooming candidates. Yeah, for sure. Now, I think you mean candidates for political positions. I don't think you mean candidates for pastors. But leaders. Yeah, leaders. We already have them in the NAACP. We have a lot of people who have joined already. We have committees set up, and I've talked to them, and we've talked about it. We are all leaders in this community. We have a responsibility, and we take that responsibility serious. So we're ready for the critique, but what we're not going to do is take critique from people who ain't willing to help, or who ain't members, or who's not willing to be critiqued back. Like, I ain't got no problem saying, well, I didn't know, I'm sorry, I'll do better. I ain't got no problem with that, because, you know, I'm just trying to do the best I can do, and I know that's the same way you feel. But Rob Shelley, give us what do you think the church, especially in a situation, I don't know what church you go to, but the white church is a church that Martin Luther King talked about towards the end of his life, that he didn't know at the time, but the letter from the Birmingham jail, I think, is the one that he made the statement, basically being very disappointed in his white brother preachers, priest fathers, and things, where he said that it's the lack of their action that was more detrimental than that of those who were the oppressors, that their so-called allies, the so-called friends. It was more disheartening, and a bigger threat to justice was their passiveness. Remember that? I remember hearing that. Yes, politics for the NAACP. Sorry, all over the place with my, no problem. I understood that. So we're going to go back now, just because before we end, I want to end it on, I don't want to, me and Minister Jet, we're kind of competitive people and stuff. We got to get some predictions in. Give me 3 states. Give me 3 toss-up states. Not that you're going to guarantee, that you predict that people think might go both ways. I'm going to list the states. You tell me which 3 that I think could go either way. North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Colorado, Arizona. If I didn't say Florida, Florida, and Indiana. So basically, the Big Ten, the ACC, only North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. So the Big Ten, the ACC, those 3.
I think Red,
Arizona, Colorado.
I think Red will carry South Carolina.
Who?
Red. I think South Carolina will be a red state.
No, I know that. The ones that I named,
Okay.
give me 3 of those that you're going to predict will be blue. The ones I named, the Big Ten states, which was Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and then the ACC is North Carolina, Virginia,
So I will say
Florida.
I will say Michigan, Pennsylvania, Florida.
Those 3 you think are going to go blue. That's your prediction. Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Man, if that happens, we're probably there.
But it really, like, what's disheartening is I've lost faith in Ohio.
Oh, I have too. Oh, I don't expect Ohio's red for sure. I don't even think it's an issue.
I've lost faith in Ohio. Man.
Yeah, I have too. Like, I mean, now let me just say this: if what you say is right, we're going to get Ohio. The reason I say that is Ohio is the bellwether. It's the state. It's one of the 2 or 3 states that has, for the last 15 presidents, has always picked the right president. Meaning whoever won, they won Ohio.
Yeah.
Not that they needed Ohio to win, just happened to be Ohio was in
Yeah.
that same. So you said Florida,
Michigan,
Michigan,
Pennsylvania.
and PA. Yeah, PA is what I'm worried about this time, especially with what went on in Philadelphia lately. I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know if that's going to mess up with the polling and the places to poll. I don't know how much fire and looting and stuff went on, that the police is going to be out, and a lot of voter suppression can happen. And because Philadelphia is like the biggest, obviously it's like the 5th or 6th biggest city in the country. So there's a lot of our votes are always there. You wait till Philadelphia come in to know how Pennsylvania going to go.
Yeah.
It's always safe. It's been a shining light. It's went Democrat the last 3-4 times. My thing out of those that I think we're going to get, believe it or not, and you got, if they're underdog it, but I'm going to go a little bit tougher. I'm going to say Arizona's going to go blue. I'm going to say North Carolina's going to go blue. And I'm going to say Michigan's going to go blue. So Arizona, North Carolina.
So we agree on Michigan.
We agree on Michigan.
I say Florida and Pennsylvania. You say Arizona, North Carolina.
Now, blues that you think out of those same ones that that you're worried about going red.
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Florida.
That's what I said. I think we're going to get North Carolina. Go ahead.
Florida, Arizona.
Well, you said Florida. No, you've already predicted them to go. So
Well,
they're
then-
out.
Okay.
So Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan's going blue. Out of those ones, which one are you going to predict that will go red? They're supposed to be a toss-up. And it
You
could
mean
go
out
either
of the
way.
remaining ones?
Out of the remaining ones. The Big Ten, the ACC. The only ones you got the ACC left is Virginia and North
Ohio.
Carolina. So Ohio red. Okay. 2 more.
Texas.
I didn't put Texas
We
in.
didn't put
No, I
Texas.
didn't put Texas in.
South Carolina. Did we put?
Nope. Who was in it was in the ACC. You got picked from Virginia and North Carolina. You said North Carolina. You said Ohio. What's left is Indiana, Arizona, Colorado. Might have been one other one I can't think of.
Well, you already picked Arizona to go blue.
You can pick mine to go red.
Yeah, I
You
picked
can go
Arizona.
because I went against you. I picked
Well, Arizona, North Carolina, Colorado.
yeah. So which ones?
Arizona, North Carolina, Colorado.
Those are the 3. So not Ohio. No,
You
picked
said Ohio wasn't in it.
Yeah, Ohio's in it.
Huh?
You picked the
Okay,
red.
Ohio, Arizona,
Uh-huh.
North Carolina.
And North Carolina. So North Carolina, yeah, those one red. Okay. We should have wrote these down, but we'll have it on tape. What do you guys think? The Reds I think we're going to have, like I said, is Ohio, which is a toss-up. I think Wisconsin is going to go red. And I think
So look,
Ohio, Wisconsin, and I think PA's going to hurt us.
I think Wisconsin. What about Wisconsin, Jamie? You think they're going red or blue?
I don't trust Wisconsin as far as I could throw Wisconsin.
I got faith in Milwaukee this time.
Man, that's and the thing and what's funny about it when we start watching these, I think it starts at 7 o'clock is the first. Some of the first states will close their polls, but at 7:30 is when a lot of them close, and 8 o'clock is the next big bunch, and then the West Coast will be closed. I think 9 o'clock is when they start. Maybe they have a 6 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Pennsylvania Pacific time closing. So those of you who might have some predictions, give me a red state that's going to go blue. What do you think about Georgia? Think we're going to pull it off in Georgia?
I have no faith in Georgia.
What about some senator races? Any senator races have you watched? What do you think's going to happen with Lindsey Graham? Think he's going to win? South Carolina, Jamie Harrison.
I have no.
You haven't listened
I have
to
no
this thing?
faith in the SEC.
Yeah, me neither. What about Arizona? That senator race. You think the blue will get that one? You've heard anything about that? That McSally.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for that there.
That's it.
But
Could you imagine if Texas and Georgia goes blue?
I can't imagine Texas ever being blue.
They say it's like
I
within-
know. I'm hearing that like.
I mean, it should. It should be almost. It should be just like California. Well, let me say this. No, I ain't gonna say it should be. What I'm saying though is the way the population has changed. But I think that's where the biggest suppression and that biggest effect of the immigrant situation. Whereas there's so many people in immigration there that's just working on farms and things that don't have, that's not registered and stuff. That's why it's so red.
Yeah, Jamie says she predicts Wisconsin will be red. She's with you on that.
Yeah. Well, you give me one that's blue. I'm worried about Pennsylvania. We're worried about Ohio. We're worried about Indiana. We're worried about Virginia. Now, Virginia has been pretty tough, but it's always close. And I don't know why. Well, I know why, but and North Carolina. We think about North Carolina and Florida. Man, you really feel? Is that just a hunch? You seen something?
Well, Florida was close last time.
Yeah, but not close enough. Like it wasn't as close as it was when Bush got it over Gore. That type of close, because I think it's 1 or 2%. It's
Right.
automatic recount. That's why that happened last time. People don't realize that it wasn't Gore who said count or recount or Bush. It fell so close that they have it in their Ohio revised code that if it's a 1% or a 2%
Their
difference,
state revised.
their state revised code. I said Ohio revised. I meant revised code. That you automatic recount. So therefore, when the automatic recount went in, they had to hold up those electoral votes. Now all eyes is on that because it was a close enough that if Florida, went. I live right across the bridge from Philly. They are out strong. Well, that's good to know. So Pennsylvania, if they are out strong, that's a good thing.
Right across the bridge from Philly. Where is
Probably New Jersey. Where you live at? New Jersey, Mrs. Coleman?
Yeah, it's got to be New Jersey.
New Jersey or Delaware, I would assume. I think that's the tri-state. Where you live at, Mrs. Coleman?
Because I think the Sixers practice facility is in New Jersey.
Is it? I don't think. Well, their practice. I don't know about their practice.
Well, put it like this: I was in Philly last summer on right on the river
Uh-huh.
at the Hilton, and you look across the river at New Jersey, and there's a building that's marked 76ers.
Good deal. Good deal. I didn't know that.
What's it called? Penn's Landing? Is that what it's called down there?
Maybe. South Jersey. Yeah, she lives in South Jersey. Florida's on the line for me. I think PA will be blue, surprisingly. Florida's on the line. Yeah, I mean, Florida, maybe it's because of, what was that, 2000? The hanging chads and stuff, Bush and Gore. Because of that 2000 election, I ain't never had no faith in Florida anymore. And they got that rotten governor, DeSantis. And when I seen, unfortunately, what was his name? The guy that was running for governor last time, that kind of had a infamous fall from grace. What was his name? Oh man, he was good, bro. I mean, he was good too. He's still good. He's just a freak, I guess. I don't know. I mean, but
All right, I
what's his
got to
name?
go to.
Gillum.
Yeah, I want to go to the house man, so I
Okay.
can get back.
Okay, guys,
I gotta
we're
make
gonna
sure.
head out of here. We will come back maybe later.
Yeah.
Maybe we're gonna watch. We're gonna do the watching here.
Maybe we'll share some results.
Yeah, we're gonna have a
live.
get together here later on, and we're gonna watch the results here. So we may get back on.
Not all the year.
Nobody's invited. Just a group of us that's willing to cry in front of each other in case what we think what could happen. We're not embarrassed to cry in front of each other. But we will probably get back on and give some, like you said, some updates for those of you who's not going to watch.
She said, "Yeah, the practice facility is in Camden."
Oh, okay, Philly. I didn't know that. Yeah, I knew Camden was close, but I didn't know that their practice facility was actually there. Man, Camden reminds me of, I used to love the Louisville Cardinals and Billy Thompson and Gordon. What's his name? Can't think of his name, but Gordon Lancaster. Gordon. Oh man, I'm gonna think of him, but it was Gordon Lancaster, Billy Thompson, and the McCray brothers played for Louisville, and 3 of them was from Camden. They had that Camden connection because Thompson came later. He was a freshman when they all played against Phi Slamma Jamma.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Billy Thompson missed that breakaway dunk. They would have took him ahead, put him ahead because they was breaking them. They had been trailing by like 5 the whole game. They went on like a 5-0 run, and that dunk would have put him ahead. And he went off the back of the board, went up. I think Michal grabbed it, took it ahead to I think it was Greg Anthony, and he got it to Drexler. He had a dunk.
Not Greg Anthony.
Not Greg Anthony. Not Greg. They had a guy like him that was their
Come on,
point.
Wittenberg.
No. That's North Carolina State.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
yeah,
man.
that's NC State.
I can't think of
They
it.
beat-
But anyway,
they
that
beat-
game
they
was
beat them in-
that was one of the best Final Four games ever. Houston against Louisville in the Final Four. That was a ridiculous game. Ballers playing in that game. But anyway, I did 23 minutes from Philly. Oh, nice. I'd love to always want to go to Philly, and we never go. But I'd like to go to Philly. I'd like to visit the Independence Hall. or
I
whatever.
did the thing up there. for
Did you?
the last one, yeah.
Yeah, how was it?
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. It's I didn't really get to do
a lot of stuff.
a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was kind of restricted to that area down there. That was nice. The Penn's Landing.
Oh, is it? Where they
yeah.
track is at and stuff?
Mhm.
Okay.
Where they got a real big Hilton right there,
Mm.
and they'll have like a little they got vendors down the river. There's a ship that's a restaurant, and the ship is the ship that on you ever watched the movie The Godfather?
Okay.
At the beginning when they show his father coming over on the ship. from
Oh,
Italy,
okay. Yeah.
That actual ship is docked there, and it's a restaurant.
That ship that was in the movie.
Yeah.
So they used that for the movie. Because when he came over, he came to New York, right? So they just used the same
They
ship.
just used the same ship.
Yeah, okay, good deal. I live around the corner from the Flyers practice facility for hockey fans. Okay, well, if we ever get to Philly, we're going to look you up so you can show us around. Show us a good time. Let us know what Philly's like. Or Camden. But anyway, they ain't going to Camden. Yeah, Camden's a little bit, is that like Newark?
Camden is like Compton. We used to go through Camden a little bit. I know a couple guys. I got a couple friends from
Is
Camden.
that right?
But,
So we're gonna sign out.
I meet them in.
Let's go. You said you got to go. We signing out, man. So tonight, let's go. Listen, hope your vote. You can watch your vote. Be counted, we assume. But we're going to have this discussion. We may come back tonight. If we're not, we're going to have one post-election. Talk a little bit about what we've seen. I'm sure we'll be talking about somebody crying, whether or not this should count or not count. Will do, Mrs. Coleman. So we will talk to you later. We're going to sign out. From Moshulu. Peace out. Let's have a good election. And let's hope for a fair election. Which I'm not sure we will have.
The
Later.
Moshulu is docked permanently at Penn's Landing.
That's the name of the ship.
Yep, on the Delaware River waterfront. Moshulu is a restaurant.
Where'd you vote at?